Welcome to the Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network by Run Try Bike. We have Christi Dee with us today. Christi has written articles for us under the Coaches Tip tab on our website, as well as having been on Beyond the Finish Line with Joe Hardin. Christi's articles led me to wanting to have her on the show so that she could share her advice with you, but to also allow us to get to know her better. Christi is not just a runner. She has 43 marathon finishes under her belt. By the way, where does that phrase come from? I have no idea. Maybe Christi knows. But anyway, she's also an author with 2 books on the shelf, Can a Frog Jog and Maya Runs a Marathon. I'm excited to get into the parallels between writing a book and running your own business and running, and what marathon location had the best food. I don't know what she will say to that answer, but she did recently run a marathon in Rome. Before we bring Christi on the show, please remember to subscribe, rate, review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. And nowadays, you can also leave a comment if you're using Spotify for your podcasts. There are 9 shows to choose from with various stories and hosts. I'm sure you'll find one or all of them to your liking. So without any more rambling from me, let's bring Christi from the back room to talk to her about her upcoming journeys in the world of trail, ultra running, book writing, and everything in between. Hey, Christi, how are you?
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure to get to know you through your writing for articles on our site and hearing your conversation with Joe a few months back. And I'm just thrilled to have you on our show. Now, one thing that we do here on this show is we try to break the ice with a question that surrounds pineapple on pizza. So you're already laughing. Is pineapple on pizza a yay or a nay for you?
That's a nay for me.
Yes. It's a total nay, right? Like, come on, people. Right. It's pizza. Right? You were just in Rome. Did anybody ever ask you if you wanted pineapple when you were on pizza when you were in Rome?
Never once, no.
Take it from the experts, people. Never once was she asked about pineapple on pizza. Anyway, that is our running joke. I think this is 162nd episode of the show, and it never fails to make me happy when somebody says no, pineapple on pizza is an absolute no. In the green room, I told you that I wanted to talk to you about writing a book, about running a business, and about running and how they all intertwine, because I'm uber fascinated by it. But before we get into all of how all of these things connect to each other, why did you decide that you wanted to write not just one book, but 2 books?
So I think it's something that I always wanted to explore. I was pretty creative growing up as a kid and kind of wrote some poems and did like a little bit of writing and things like that. I enjoyed my classes growing up through English and things like that. Reading, I would always had a book in my hand. I think it was something that just naturally started to develop in my head. And then a few years ago, or over time, over many years, as my friends started to have kids and I was going to a lot of baby showers, I was looking for children's books that I could take as a gift that kind of related to how I knew my friends. And a lot of them were through running. And there weren't a lot of children's books out there based on running, or, the joy and the lessons that you can learn through running. And so I thought that there was an opportunity there to kind of get into that. It's very much a niche market, I understand, but it was something that was lacking when I've been shopping for children's books. And I thought maybe that might resonate with others as well.
Out of curiosity, because I have this conversation a lot when it comes to running a business and business owners, the statement of, I know it's a niche audience, you said it in a way that made it seem like it wasn't an audience that you should pursue, because niche means small and maybe you can't get enough out of it. When you think about that from a business perspective, was it something in your mind where you thought, I need to make sure I reach tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people? Or was it more along the lines of, yes, this is a niche and I want to get into it, and I think that the people that I reach here are going to be valuable, not only to me as a writer, because I can then learn and understand what they're looking for and write a second book, but also to develop a community around it as well?
Yeah, definitely. I knew that it was going to be small. It was kind of through the editing process. When I first had the first one, Can a Frog Jog? one of the editors that I had talked to before hiring the one I ended up with kind of gave a little bit of negativity towards like, do you know that there won't be a lot of people that understand what you're going after here? And to me, that didn't matter because the smaller audience, the running community, that was my target market. And I was okay with not having a book that was for the masses necessarily. I think in both of my books, there are lessons that can be gained for children and, adults alike. While the subject matter may be focused on running, I think there's a broader scheme there and a broader lesson and things that people can take away from it.
Is that similar to your approach to running? Like when you first got into running, was it, okay, I'm going to figure out how to run a mile, and then I'm going to run a 5K, and then I'm going to run 10K, and then half marathon, and then try to figure out the niche in which you wanted to participate in? And that might change over time, because I know, like we mentioned, you've run 43 marathons and 7 ultra marathons. So it changes, it has moved. But when you first got started, was there a niche that you were looking to be a part of? And you were like, yeah, I enjoy this area, even if it's not what everybody else is doing.
Yes, for sure. So the very first race I ever ran was a half marathon with a group of friends. And I was peer pressured into doing that. But I was very happy in the end, very happy that I did it. It was very daunting, very scary, but I wanted to fit in with my friends. And so I did it just based on peer pressure. To this day, I'm the only one that continued to run after that particular race, which is really funny because I was the biggest advocate against it.
This is awesome.
But yeah, so Can a Frog Jog, it's really about you were following the narrator through the story, and he's kind of searching through the animal kingdom to find a running partner. And to me, that speaks to, it's okay if you're not doing what this person is or the next person. Just keep being you, and one day you're going to find that community that you belong in. And so that's kind of where our narrator goes through all these animals, and that they are too fast or too slow, or they don't run, or they swim instead. So where do I fit in? And in the end, it's kind of like you can find your own community as long as you stay true to yourself and to what you like to do.
Quick shout out to those of you that are joining us on Instagram. I see the Run Club Salem is with us, Cami the Tri-Nut, Raz from Running Sucks, Not Your Average Row, and Honesty Global Industry have joined us. Thanks. If you have questions for Christi, drop them in. I need to hear more about the peer pressure from your friends to do the half marathon, because I will tell you, for me, the reason why I got into triathlon was I had just moved to Texas, and I was playing on a co-ed softball team, and 2 of the players were like, hey, we're going to do this triathlon. And I thought to myself, what's a triathlon? I have no idea. Okay, let's try it. And after like weeks of training for this thing, and I'm putting training in air quotes for those of you who are listening, I asked them if they had registered, and they had said no. They didn't even register for the event. So I did it, all on my own. Hated every second of the swim, but fell in love with the sport and have gone on to do 8 Ironman distance events. And they never got into the sport of triathlon. So what's the story behind the peer pressure for getting you into the half marathon distance? A, B, you are now the only one who's done it, and you've done 43 marathons on top of it all.
Right. So it was in my early 20s, and just the group of, so here in Indianapolis, the month of May is really big for the Indianapolis 500, the IndyCar race that we have. And so this is a very timely interview as well, because the 500 Festival Mini Marathon, which is the 13.1, just happened this past Saturday. And that was the actual race that I did originally. So that was kind of the anniversary of that. So it was kind of a big thing to just talk about, oh, I'm going to run the mini, and who's going to run the mini with me. And I didn't know what training entailed. Like, I didn't know the process that you needed to go through. I had no idea what was going on. So I was like, okay, I will figure this out because I don't want FOMO. Like, I don't want to be left out. So that was my main motivation, was to just not be left out from the friend group doing this event that, is kind of a big deal in Indianapolis in the month of May. So I signed up. I think that the furthest I ran before that was probably maybe 6 miles. And it was probably a walk jog kind of situation. Like, I didn't know what it was going to take to actually finish that distance. In fact, in my efforts to persuade them to not do this race, I was trying to describe how far 13 miles was and how you would only be insane if you would run that far. So like, here I am, like the complete opposite now, as my mindset was then. But I'm so thankful to this day. Like, I give one of my good friends, Heather, credit for bringing running into my life and just opening up this, wonderful chapter that's continued on for decades now. And, yeah, I was not going to do it. I was not a fan. I was not a fan at the finish, or through the process. By the time I got to the finish, I think I was smart enough to see that, yeah, this was a big deal. It was a cool undertaking, and I was proud of myself. So I think that's kind of where the, sprout kind of came for this, like, love of this new sport that I was in.
Shout out to those of you that are watching us on YouTube. Denise Dabbles, thank you very much for the comment about impressive people are doing Ironman events. So Christi, back to you. So you said your friends who convinced you to do this while you were trying to convince them not to do it are not runners anymore, correct?
That's correct.
How long did it take for them to stop running? Was it immediately after that finish line and you were like, come on, let's do more? As a matter of fact, let's double it. Forget about 13.1. Let's double it.
Yeah, it was a handful of them were one and done. That day was the end for them, 18 or 20 years ago. And yeah, I knew there was something else there. So it was a very slow and painful race, but I started to understand what you could learn about yourself and what you could learn just about, humanity by putting yourself through these endurance events. I mean, to see the spectators that would show up and the support from strangers and just the sense of, accomplishment for myself, and knowing that there was okay, now I have my benchmark and I can improve on that. There was just a lot of things that started to click in my head, and I was like, okay, I need to explore this a little bit further.
Dalia Ramirez Robles on Instagram, I see you. Thanks for joining us. So do you consider yourself a tinkerer? In other words, so you cross this finish line and you're talking about learning about yourself, learning about the human body and how you can push yourself. Would you have called yourself a tinkerer before that? Like, you will always test things out, try things out? Or was this a scenario in which you cross that finish line and you're like, this was a lot of pain. It was fun. I could probably do it better if I did this other thing instead, or if I adjusted this instead?
I'm pretty much an all or nothing kind of person. Like, I will dive in fully once I'm committed to something. I'm going to see it all the way through. And maybe that's why I've continued for all these years running, because I tried it then, and something clicked with me a little bit, and then I was able to find a passion within that. And I think yeah, it's just something that I dove in with both feet. It was casual maybe at first, but not for very long. I got pretty hooked pretty quickly. The more finish lines I found, the more I wanted to find again.
Do you have a race mantra?
I have several. Yeah. So it kind of depends on the race, right? I think we've all been there where you're feeling amazing and you're just at the top of the world. So those are going to be, just like how strong you are and like how far you've come. One thing I like to always remind myself is about perseverance. The greater the obstacle, the more glory in overcoming it. I actually have that little saying on this little plaque thing that's been on my desk for many, many years. One of my good friends gave me that very early in my running career, and that's always resonated with me. So I kind of always dig into that. And sometimes it has to be a lot simpler. Maybe it's just one foot in the front of the other, or, get to the next aid station and just repeat that. You can make it the next aid station, or it can even be like, there's 1 mile left. Anybody can do anything for 1 mile, so it depends on where your headspace is and how hard you're really digging into that pain cave to figure out which mantra is going to really resonate at the time. But yeah, I've got several things that I'll kind of reach back into my head for.
I asked because you said when you go in, you go all the way in. And my race mantra has been, since I started this stuff 18 years ago, all gas, no brakes.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. And sometimes it works. Sometimes I run out of gas one step over the finish line. And sometimes it doesn't, where the gas runs out at mile 9 of a half marathon. It happens. It is what it is. Right. So I wanted to get your take on what the race mantras are, based on, I'm going all in. So I asked about tinkering as well, because I presume, I haven't written a book yet, but I presume that being an author requires you to tinker all along the way based on editing, whether an editor tells you or you're rereading your work. How hard is it? And can you compare it to a training plan with running to write a book? In other words, there are days when you're running and the intervals flow real easily. And then there are days with running where everything just seems uber hard. Is there a parallel to writing that is similar, and how does one help the other?
Absolutely. I mean, they're both endurance events for sure, in my opinion. And you're very right. Like some days it can come super easy. Both of my books are rhyming books. And so it kind of takes a lot. You have to be in a certain mindset to be able to, come up with specific rhymes and get the cadence correct with how this stanzas flow and things like that. So I've learned a lot through that. But yeah, there would be some times where I'd sit down and I'd come up with 3 or 4, like the King of Frog Jog there with the animals. There'd be 3 or 4 animals I could think of really quickly and think of things that made sense and put that together. And then sometimes, I would rest for a long period of time and not be able to revisit it because I was just kind of blank. But that's how training cycles go too. You can't be all in at your top 100% every time. You've got to like have some rest days and have some easy runs. So I think there's definitely parallels with all of that. But when I set my sights many years ago on wanting to figure out how to make that first book happen, I knew that I would see it through regardless of how long that it took or what, road barriers might come up or be in the way. I knew that one day I would see it through.
Was the finish line of the first book similar to the finish line of your first half marathon, where when you finished it, you're like, that was really hard, but I want to do it again? And that's why we have Maya Runs a Marathon now?
Absolutely. Yes, it was. So Can of Frog Jog came from just me writing down for a couple of years. I had a note in my phone, and I would kind of think of an animal or a rhyme here and there. I remember waking up once or twice in the night and like adding to my little story as I was putting it all together. And within this last year, when I was transitioning into being a full-time coach, I had a little more time to actually put it together and see what it would look like as a full book. And when I sent that off to the editor, and then also there's a period of time you have to send it to get a copyrights license, both of those took a lot of time. And so then I had this extra available time and my creative juices were still flowing because I had just wrapped up this book and it was at the editor that I dove right into Maya Runs a Marathon, just to kind of continue the momentum that I had gained by getting it going, getting that out there. So that's why I was able to do them pretty quickly back to back like that.
Great segue into becoming a full-time coach, because now you have your own business. Whereas, and I don't know if you were coached for your marathons, but if you were coached, you had somebody telling you what to do. With the editorial process for a book, you have somebody telling you what to do. Mm-hmm. And now you're running your own business and there's nobody to tell you what to do. Like, what is that freedom like? Is it initially scary? Are you looking for somebody to tell you what to do? Or are you the kind of person that was all gas, no brakes, jump right into entrepreneurship, let's go, and we'll figure it out and break things all along the way?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think I've found a really good balance for myself, seeking mentors in areas that I know that I definitely need, but also being able to navigate some of the process myself. I do have a master's in business administration, so I do have the business background and understand what comes along with that. I ran a company in the corporate world for 20 years. So I have like some basic knowledge of how business works, and but to do it for myself and specifically coaching, and I wanted to get the proper education to bring everything I could to the table for my athletes. Then of course, then I was finding mentors on how that would work. And when I first talked to you a few months ago, I thought you and I connected on that level, because I know that's kind of where you were at. You're like, I have this desire, this passion, I'm going to go ahead and dive in and see what happens. And I think that's where I was at too. I knew always there's a risk of failure, but it was something I was so passionate about and putting my whole self in, that, it's one of those things, if it's going to keep you up at night for the good reasons, then go after that. And that's where I was at.
It's so interesting because I just wrote a Substack post. Yeah, gosh, I don't even remember, yesterday or today, and it's called Revolutionary or Traditionalist. I wrote it yesterday. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie La La Land, but in that movie, John Legend's character asks Ryan Gosling's character, "How are you going to be a revolutionary if you're such a traditionalist?" And I thought it was such a powerful question to ask, because as business owners, we want to do things our way. But business society at large is telling us this is the way to be successful. And at some point, you have to take ownership of your own business and be inquisitive and break things. And that's where I've been for the last 5 years. And I'm probably leaning into it more today than I ever have before, because I don't want to live somebody else's spreadsheet or dreams or goals, because that's how they ran their business. I'm doing it my way. And so I want to ask you this on a personal level, as a coach running your coaching business. What is the thing that you do that is revolutionary? We'll put that in air quotes, compared to what you have seen as a traditionally run coaching business. What is it that people, when they sign up with you, are going to get from you that they're not getting from somebody else?
Yeah, that's really good question, and a lot of what I've spent my time on developing, for sure. First of all, I'm going to say that my communication with my athletes, I feel, is top notch. I mean, we are in communication all the time, very regularly, daily almost, and a lot of that is virtual online. But I make it a point to regularly meet face to face with my athletes. I have athletes all over the country, so if we can't sit down in person, which I do with those in Indianapolis, we meet on Zoom. And so, first and foremost, the communication is the foundation for what I believe is a true, strong coach athlete relationship. I also dig into my experience, wondering what I needed at various times in my journey of becoming a marathoner, ultra marathoner, and continuing this running journey from my 20s to my 40s. There's a lot that I've learned through my own experience, and that I can think back what would have benefited me at these particular junctions in my journey. And so I put together a lot of content that I can dig into when an athlete has a specific question about maybe is how work-life balance situation, or whatever the case may be. I also went ahead and got an endurance sports nutrition certificate, because I want to approach the training lifestyle with my athletes holistically. And we need to look at the big picture here. It's not just about running intervals and your Saturday long run. We've got to know what's happening throughout your life, and especially nutrition wise, but also stress wise with other things going on in your life. And so that's where the communication is the foundation. But then I've equipped myself with the different various tools, including my own experience. So that's what I can bring to the table with my athletes.
The communication thing is interesting because I wrote this question down as I was preparing for this conversation. And the question is, with all of your accomplishments, do you find it hard to actually coach the athletes? And the reason why I asked that is because many would think like Michael Jordan would be a great coach, or Diana Taurasi would be a great coach if you follow basketball. And I don't think that they would. I think that their competitiveness would prohibit them from being able to coach. But beyond that, I also think that their greatness would prohibit them from being able to coach, because I can hear them saying, why can't you do this? And the answer coming from the athlete being, because I'm not Diana Taurasi and I'm not Michael Jordan, right? Like, you have a talent unlike any other in the world of basketball. And so with 43 marathons under your belt, with obviously having qualified for Boston and having 6 world majors and plus Sydney now, plus 17 ultra marathons, is it difficult for you to have those conversations at points where you're like, I don't understand why you can't do this interval? Like, do you find that hard, or is your ability to connect with people, because look, you wrote children's books, so you have to know how to connect with people, especially those who may not fully understand everything at an age that is young. Is that ability, does that supersede the inability to connect with people to be a coach based on your accomplishments?
I think from my experience, helps me relate to people more, because everything I've done has truly been something I've worked extremely hard for. It never came easy. I haven't always been fast. I was maybe faster for a period of time. Those days are probably behind me, but I started running at the age of, I think, 26, and I didn't get my BQ until I was 42. So there was a lot of work and waiting and time and patience and perseverance, mental strength that had to come with continuing to go after something that you just kind of fell short on. So I think because of my experience in the duration, I can relate to people very well. I've been disappointed with my outcomes. I've also been very happy with my successes, but because it hasn't always been easy, I think that it's relatable to people, because I have those stories where I can say, I missed the mark a lot also. And so even though I've done a lot of races and a lot of things, I found things to celebrate that aren't just time-based. And because of that, I think I can relate very well to a variety of people. If you want to focus on the time and the clock, let's do that. And I'm super excited I can get you there. Let me help you. And we're going to talk numbers all day long. If we're not there and the numbers aren't adding up for us, and we're not, hitting those time goals, and we need to kind of take a mental break and focus on something else, let's celebrate just the fact that we made it through the training cycle and that we hit the start line, and every finish line is something to be celebrated. So there's a lot of different ways to look at each person's journey individually. And so my approach with each person is very customized to their individual needs, life circumstances, their experience, and what their goals are. And I think that I do a very good job of relating in the wide spectrum.
Thank you to Nitwit Lissy and Minister of Gravel for joining us on Instagram. So one of the words you said was patience, and clearly going from 27 to 42 before you qualify for Boston shows patience. Would you have described yourself prior to the age of 27 as being a patient person?
I think I went through a lot of things in my life that really helped with my mental strength. And I think patience is a natural attribute to someone who's mentally strong. So I would say, I was probably more patient going into my running journey than maybe others who hadn't fully, gone through a whole bunch of traumatic experiences in their lives. I honestly think all of my life, like leading up to that, just various things, um, building up my mental strength is what kept me in the running game from the beginning. And I, I, I think that that's a huge component for it, considering that it wasn't a natural thing for me to do immediately to become a runner. I had to work at becoming a runner. And so I think that I did have that patience there, but it truly was exercised once I got into this sport.
How about the word fearless? Would you use that word to describe yourself? And I'm going to set up the answer this way. You tried to convince friends to not run a half marathon, but you did it anyway. You wrote 2 books. You have gone from, one marathon after the other to also now having run 17 ultra marathons. Has there been a moment where you've thought to yourself, I can't do that? Or are you the kind of person who's like, let's see what happens, and if I fail, the worse the result out of that failure is a lesson learned?
That's 100% where I'm at. I think if you wait until you're not afraid to do something, it may never happen. I've been afraid to do a lot of things in my life, including starting a business, including, writing these books to put things out there that you're, kind of new at. That's a little bit scary for everybody. Um, I still get the butterflies and the anxiety and the fear, like towing the start line of any race. I think it's healthy to have some element of fear. You can be prepared, and that will keep you from letting the fear get the best of you. And that's part of my job as a coach too, talking through race strategies and different ways to plan ahead so people, know what's expected of them or know what's coming. But I think it's okay to have a little bit of fear. It's if you let that limit you, that's when the problem happens. But I think it's good to go ahead and start. Even don't let the fear stop you. Um, that's my philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reality is there's going to be regret in either one of those scenarios, right? You either regret that you didn't try, or you might have a regret that you failed. But either way, I'd rather have the regret that I didn't make it to my goal than the regret of always wondering what could have happened.
Absolutely. I mean, you truly do fail at 100% of the things you don't try. And I know that's a little bit of a cliche, but like there's so much truth in it
Yeah.
that I think, everybody can learn that lesson.
Our buddy Joe has joined us over on YouTube.
Okay, Joe.
Do you want to put a bet down on Prairie on Fire right now? We'll put down a bet on who's going to run more. $1 bet.
Well, I'm betting on myself.
There you go. Yes, that's how you do it. We have
Yeah, I'm super excited, but yeah, I mean, Joe can hang with the best of them, so I'm excited to see him out there. We'll see what we can come up with.
we have a motto that rolls around our offices, and by offices I mean my laptop that I operate this business out of. Is take risks and bet on yourself. Always bet on
I
yourself.
like it. Yeah.
So let's talk about the backyard ultra. In the green room, I mentioned to you, it's my white whale. It's the thing that I believe I can be successful at in getting to 100 miles. Like I've said before, I've crossed 8 100-mile finish lines. I've done Cocodona. I can do the distance. But this format trips me up in all kinds of ways. And we talked about tinkering, we talked about being fearless, and we talked about being patient in this conversation. Would you agree that those are 3 things you would need in order to be successful at this format?
100%. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have the patience to stay out there until the cows come home, you're gonna have a rough day. Yeah, you've definitely got to be patient. You've definitely got to be willing to try different strategies because the same thing might not work, hour 15 that worked hours 1 and 2. So I definitely learned that my first and only time that I've experienced the backyard. But I would just vary my strategy from hour to hour if necessary. And so adaptable, patient, and you've got to have a little bit of humor in there. Keep things light. Don't let things get too heavy on you. But the backyard's a special event. I think it's something that's really great for allowing anybody to participate on a stage that kind of like keeps the playing field even. The only thing you're against is the time in getting back to the start corral and then getting back in after the 4.16 miles in time. So it's you against yourself, the time, and that's mostly it.
So here's a question for you. The very first backyard ultra I did included bell laps. And what that meant was they were giving prize money for the person who ran that lap the fastest in order to sort of break up how long people would go. Because if you're not patient during this format, it will burn you in the long run.
Uh-huh.
So let's say Prairie on Fire includes bell laps and they do one and it's unannounced. So it might be yard 7, it could be yard 12, it could be yard 14. You have no idea. If that bell lap comes up, are you chasing that money?
No. I run my race, stick to my plan. It's what I tell my athletes too. Don't get caught up in everyone else going out too fast at the start. Run your own race, go into it with confidence in what you've put in, the work you've put in. And I guess if that's someone's goal to like do that, but for me, for going the distance, I know that would probably have an adverse effect.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what is your goal? Like, why are you at this event? If you know going in, there are bell laps and there's chances for prize money, and you're like, look, if it comes up in the first 7 yards and I'm done by yard 8, but I've won the bell lap and I've put some money in my pocket, then yeah, go for it. That's your goal and that's what you wanted to do. But for me, like I said, the goal has always been to get to 100 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing a bell lap would absolutely be a complete waste in trying to reach that end goal. So for Prairie on Fire, you mentioned last year you did it. Or in the green room, you mentioned you reached the 100K mark. Is the goal at minimum to get to that number?
That's at the minimum. I could have kept going that year. I called it for myself. I had Chicago Marathon, I think it was 3 weeks later. And I was kind of evaluating the situation. There were 3 other females still in the race, not showing any signs of stopping. So the only thing better than like hitting my PR distance up now is the 100K for that. So I could have tried to like be on podium, top 3 female, or, even try to win. But that would have ruined my Chicago Marathon, I felt. And so I needed to listen to my body and just kind of start to make the right choice for what I knew I still had just a few weeks later.
I think that's such an important lesson that you've just given people, right? Like, what is the ultimate goal? What is it that you really, truly want to accomplish? And in this case, we'll just use these 2 events, Prairie on Fire and the Chicago Marathon. The Chicago Marathon was A goal. And risking your A goal to try to do something at a B event for yourself just doesn't make much sense to me, especially, there's investment from money and time into the A goal. So why would you burn that for something else? But it's hard for people to make that decision. Is this something that you as a coach have had to face with your athletes where they're like, I want to do these 17 events in 17 weeks. And, in week 12 is the A goal, but then there's these other 5 races right after. Like, are you facing that conversation with your athletes that you're coaching?
Yes, definitely. In fact, I have one athlete right now who is, we're 4 weeks into 7 weeks. She had 6 events in 7 weeks. And I said they were all varying distances, but it did include marathon It does include a 50K, a couple half marathons. So we had to break it down, and we had to realize that not all of these needed to be approached as races. We needed to decide which ones of these would be part of the training block and make sure that we would stay inside of ourselves and not get all caught up in the race atmosphere, but that we were going to run our own race in terms of using it as a training piece to build towards the bigger events. And she's done a very good job at it. So I'm super proud of her. But yes, I think it's valuable to have races in intermittent, like through your training plan. It can bring some chance to practice race day, race morning, like fueling and breakfast and waking up and, kind of getting in that atmosphere. Maybe it will get some of the nerves out before your actual A race comes around. But to your point, definitely need to know what the actual objective is for that, and to stay within yourself and not get too carried away, to sacrifice, the future goal that is coming down the road that you're trying to train for.
Yeah, it's hard for me personally to take that approach of use it as a training day, because one of my other mantras is bibs on, races on. And if I'm going to a race, I'm going to race. That's just my
Mhm.
mindset. So I know that with that being the case, I have to look at schedules, because you're going to have a taper moment, then you're going to have a race, and then you're going to have recovery moments. And you have to balance all of that stuff out. So I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is you really have to understand and know your own personal why, instead of getting caught up on what you see on Instagram or TikTok or any other social media platform about what people are doing. So, for example, right now, the Cocodona 250 is being run, and I see it all day, every day for the last couple of days, which is this race makes me want to go out and run a 250 miler right now. And it's awesome. Challenge yourself, do it, but understand there's time that you're going to have to invest and money you're going to have to invest to get there. And do you really want to run a 250-mile race, or are you just caught up in the hype because the people within your inner circle on social media are talking about it constantly?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can definitely get caught up in it. And yeah, probably racing during the training cycle isn't for everybody. I totally understand that, but it can be used as a tool, in my opinion. But not if you're balls to the wall every time you pin on a bib. It probably won't work for you.
Yeah, it just it goes back to understanding what my recovery is, right? Because if I'm racing an event 8 weeks before the main event, like all of a sudden I've got 2 weeks that I'm going to miss out on that are probably prime training
Right.
weeks while I
Yeah.
recover. And that doesn't make much sense. So like I raced a 50 miler at the beginning of April. I had 2 weeks of recovery. Not a problem, because my A race is in October, right? If this was August, late August, wouldn't be smart. Like that would just totally wipe out the training for that. Which gets me to your article, and this will be our last question before we jump into our rapid fire food questions. Is the article that we published about a week ago on April 29th says, "My goal race is over. Now what?" That's the title of the article. And in there, you talk about, recovery and community and new goals with purpose and things along those lines. How important is it for athletes, the athletes that you coach probably, to have a post race plan? Because a lot of times, right, we see it on social media. I just crossed the finish line and I press register on the very next one. That may not be the smartest thing for some people. How important is it for people to have a post race plan, in your opinion?
I think it's different for everybody, just as everything is. I have a debrief with each of my athletes after their races, so we talk through what that could look like. I don't encourage anybody to sign up for anything like immediately at all. I want to talk through, what did we learn? What are the things that we're celebrating? And, how did we feel coming out of that? And then we can talk about, okay, so what feels good to be next? I don't want anything to feel forced. And I don't want anybody to be too trigger happy with the registration buttons, just because they were either very successful and super excited to keep going, or felt very defeated and really wanted some sort of comeback race. I think there's some time that you need to absorb and soak all of that in, especially for newer. If you haven't been doing this like for very long, you need to learn a little bit about yourself coming off of a race, and decide what really is going to be exciting for you to work towards, not just because you feel like you have to, because XYZ didn't go right, or because you feel like you've got to get better and better and better because you did really well. There's a time and place for everything. So I never encourage anyone to just immediately sign up at all. We've kind of debrief. Let's weigh the pros and cons about what we're going to do next, and have a proper time for recovery. And like I say, find the things that you can celebrate from those races, and that's super important. And it's not always a time or a numbers based thing that you're celebrating. It's just the fact that you got through it, maybe, and that's just a huge win in and of itself sometimes.
I love the idea of celebrating. That one of the things that we talk about often at Run Try Bike is celebrate everything. And you're right, not everything is a measurable event. It may not be the distance, it may not be the time, it may not be measurable in that sense. Like, did you enjoy yourself? Did you get to mile 18 of the marathon and not feel the cramping coming along? Did your mindset say, hey, I got to mile 18, 19, 20, and I'm into this. I can do it, as opposed to, oh my goodness, I still have 10K to go concept, right? I think you have to take the moment to sit back and gain perspective and celebrate those things that we've accomplished. So I love the idea of celebration. One of the other things I love is food. And so I want to jump into our rapid fire food questions if you're ready for them.
Okay.
Don't be nervous. Oreos. Are you a fan of the old school Oreo, the current double stuff Oreo, the mega Oreo, the thin Oreo, or the Cakester Oreo?
So old school Oreo.
Are
Dip
you
that in some milk. Yep.
a glass of milk?
Yeah.
So are you a dunker?
I am dunking the regular plain Oreo from back in the day. Yep.
No spin and scrape, just straight dunking.
Straight dunk.
So we had Jason Fitzgerald on the show months ago, and he said the way that he eats his Oreos is he throws one into the glass of milk so that it basically disintegrates while he's eating the other ones, so that when he drinks the glass of milk at the end, it's like almost like a cookies and cream rush of disintegrated Oreos. So take that for what it's worth. Give it a try.
Hey, maybe give it a try.
Licorice, red or black or neither?
Red, definitely not black.
Red Vines or Twizzlers?
Twizzlers.
Did you bite both ends of the Twizzler end off so you can have a straw?
I already knew where you're going with that. Absolutely.
You had to do it. It's just part of the process.
What else did we do in the 80s and 90s? We didn't have any other way to keep ourselves entertained but play with our food and candy.
And listen to great 80s music. I didn't care what it was always going to be better than what we hear today. Yes, and I'm the old man shaking my fist at the clouds. Peeps. Are Peeps a real candy, or are they just earwax covered in sugar?
No Peeps for me. I don't call that candy. I just call them Peeps and keep them away.
I gave you the description of candy corn, not even Peeps. Is candy corn a real candy? I
do enjoy candy corn, so that might be unpopular opinion, but
in this house it is. You nailed the pizza one, you failed the candy corn one.
Okay. Can't win them all.
That's right. So a lot of grandmothers or grandfathers have candy dishes, and they would typically have 3 different candies in there: butterscotch, the mint, and the strawberry with the soft center that was wrapped up to make it look like a strawberry. Those 3 are in the candy dish. Which one are you grabbing?
The Werther's butterscotch.
Yeah, it's got to be Werther's, right?
Uh-huh.
It has to be. Do you remember Brock's that would make that caramel square? Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Was that the worst candy, or was the Tootsie Roll worse than that candy when it came to pulling your teeth out of your mouth?
Oh. Probably the Brock's candy did more damage than the Tootsie Roll.
That Brock's candy was so rough, man. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, like, I'm not sure how Brock's has stayed in business when you think about it, right? They make candy corn. They make that hard sugar caramel thing. They make do you remember the circus peanuts, the orange things that are
Oh
like
yeah.
styrofoam,
Oh yeah.
right? Like, how are
Well,
they still in business?
Well, here's my conspiracy theory. I think a dentist is in charge of all of that.
That dentist is in a palatial palace somewhere and he just keeps cranking that stuff out.
Yep, because then we all need to go get our teeth fixed after chomping on all that.
Creamy or crunchy peanut butter, which way do you lean?
Creamy.
When you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how do you make it? And I'll give you your options. Do you put peanut butter on one slice of bread, jelly on the other, and then smash them together? Or do you put peanut butter on one slice of bread, jelly on top of the peanut butter, and then bring the other slice over and smash it?
Oh, it's separate and then together.
Yeah, it's wrong, but good answer. Okay, so then how do you eat the peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Because I've heard so many answers to this question. I usually give 4 options: 2 rectangles, 2 triangles, 4 squares, or 4 triangles.
Rectangles. 2 rectangles.
2 rectangles.
Yes.
I've heard 2 rectangles, but the person said that they turn it so that they have the handles as the crust, and then they eat it like corn on the cob because they don't like the crusts, but they don't want to get their fingers dirty from jelly.
Okay, that's fair.
I've heard people say they go straight into the middle of the bread. They don't cut it. They go straight into the middle, and then they eat the corners, right? And I've heard the typewriter method where they go from corner across without slicing the bread.
So I tend to eat the crust part first because I want the good center, nice part for the end. I save the best part.
So does that make you a fan of Uncrustables, or you don't like Uncrustables?
I do like Uncrustables. Yeah, Uncrustables are good. The center part's the better part, so I eat the crust off first.
I love it. What about grilled cheese? Are you a fan of grilled cheese?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have a method for making the grilled cheese?
I think just as classic as it can be with butter, white bread, and American cheese, because that's how they serve them at the aid stations out in the woods. And that's always the best grilled cheese ever.
Okay, so next time you make a grilled cheese, I don't know if you like mayonnaise, but add mayonnaise to the outside of the bread the same way you would butter. Have both, and it adds this tanginess to the grilled cheese sandwich. It's unmatched, and it gets crustier, crispier on the outside too.
Oh, that's a good tip. I'll have to try that.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Is a hot dog a taco?
No.
It's just a hot dog.
It's his own food group, isn't it?
I love them. So the answer is yes. I'm a huge fan of hot dogs. I actually just posted on Threads that the best combination on a hot dog is mustard, ketchup, and sauerkraut. And it cannot be meat, and it has to be spicy brown mustard. It can't be the French's yellow mustard. Do you eat hot dogs?
I do.
And what's your go-to when it comes to topping on hot dogs?
So I'm a hot dog at particular events. Like if it's an appropriate hot dog eating circumstance, then I will. Like in Chicago, when you're at a Cubs game, you have to get the hot dog. So I do all the stuff they've got there, which is the ketchup, the brown mustard, the relish, and the onions, like all on there.
Don't they throw
and
pickles?
I think they even have spicy peppers that you could put on there.
I thought pickles too, right? Or no?
Pickles, yes, pickles. That's right too. Yep.
First of all, thank you for being a hot dog fan. I knew I liked you. Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
That's so funny. I love red velvet. But that's a good question because I don't know. Maybe it's been fooling us all this time.
So here's my theory.
Like, do you want chocolate or red velvet? I'd be like, oh, red velvet, of course. But maybe it's the same thing. I've been duped by the cake people.
If you go to a proper bakery it is going to be different. They're going to have alkalized cocoa and they're going to do all these things. It's just not red food
Okay.
dye. But if you go to like Kroger or Albertsons, they're
Okay.
not going through that process. They're
Right.
just dropping in the red food dye, calling it red velvet cake, and charging you $8 for a $2 piece of chocolate cake. Plain and simple.
Fair enough.
Favorite flavor of ice cream is?
Cookies and cream.
Yes, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite chocolate candy is?
Snickers.
Favorite non-chocolate candy?
Oh, I'll say Skittles.
Yes, great choice. A lot of runners would be upset with you that you didn't say nerd clusters, but we'll move on.
That was on my list there, but I went with the Skittles. Yeah.
Chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin cookie?
Chocolate chip.
The hard kind, like Chips Ahoy, or fresh baked? Like
No,
soft?
it has to be soft, or I won't touch a hard cookie. No, it's not worth my time.
Get out of here with that Chips Ahoy stuff. Ice cream sandwiches. Are you a fan of ice cream sandwiches? And if so, do you prefer the chocolate wafer rectangle or the circular with the chocolate chip cookie?
The old school classic rectangle chocolate wafer, white center.
Are you the kind of person who's like me and you just throw the whole thing basically into your mouth? Or are you like my mother used to treat this thing like it was filet mignon, right? She'd lick around the edges, she'd bite a little bit, she'd lick around it. And I was like, what are you doing? Just inhale the thing.
I think I'm a hybrid. I like to do a little bit of the licking, but then I just got to start biting it because it's getting all over my hands and we need to be done with this. So kind of start out slow and then fast and furious, get that thing.
I love it.
consumed.
Fast and Furious 18, ice cream sandwiches. Next up, Vin Diesel. Pop-Tarts, frosted or unfrosted?
Frosted.
Always. Favorite flavor?
The cinnamon.
Oh, that's a
Whatever.
good call. We have a
Yeah.
box of blueberry in the house right now. I'm working my way through. You can only eat one type of meal for the rest of your life that's either savory or sweet. Doesn't matter what it is. You could have all the different meals, but it either has to be 100% sweet or 100% savory. Which way are you going?
Savory.
Yeah, has to be, right? At
Has
some
to be.
point, you're just like, enough with the sugar.
Oh yeah, I can't do it. I get a headache.
Last question for you. Tray of brownies has come out of the oven. It's been sitting on the counter long enough for it to cool down. Are you going to the corner? Are you going to the edge? Or are you going to the middle with the ooey gooey?
The corner.
Yes.
Yes.
Has to be, right?
Right.
You get a little bit of that crunch. You get a little bit of that ooey gooey, and you can actually hold it.
Yes, all the things. It's like the perfect square of brownie. It's like the trifecta.
I love it. Christi, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Jason. This was fun.
For those of you that have stuck around for the entire hour, thank you so much. As I say, time is the greatest gift that you can give to one person, and you just gave me the greatest gift of your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on the Fireside Chat this week. We talked to Christi Dee. And next week on the 13th, we will be talking to Dalia Ramirez Robles, who you will have seen on our website, on our How It All Started feature, as well as under the Club Spotlight with Corremos Sacramento. So check those both out, and then bring your questions next week as we go live with Dalia at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the Run Try Bike Fireside Chat. Head to your favorite podcast platform, look for Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this show going and helps us bring great guests like Christi on, and we'll see you next time on Fireside Chat.